Okay, so next up we've got Richard Hyde, founder, CEO and Executive Chairman of West African Resources. Aside from being a rugby nut, Richard is a geologist with 28 years experience in the mining industry and over 20 years experience operating in West Africa. Richard founded West African in 2006 and has led the company from the IPO in 2010 through to production in 2020. West African was also awarded the Digger of the Year at this conference after producing 290,000 ounces of gold in 2021, which is an awesome effort. Richard holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Geology and Geophysics from the University of New England and is a member of both the Australian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy and also a member of the Australian Institute of Geoscientists. Over to you, Rich.
Thanks very much, Jeremy, and thanks everyone for turning up. Thanks again to the Diggers team, to Miles, Sharon and Suzanne for hosting us again. Another hour and 15 minutes and the man with the wheelbarrow will be coming around with beer, so I'll get through this. But I was just looking at the draw for the World Cup. I think we'll see you in the quarterfinals. So we'll see how we go. I think we're on the up and up. We only lost by 3 points or 4 points last time. So West African is a company I started in 2006, so 17 years ago. It's been a long journey, but we've had a lot of success over the last few years. No surprises, West Africa generally has become quite challenging over the last few years, but look, no matter what's really happened, we've always found a way to keep going. I think we've had 10 quarters now of continuous production from our operations at SANBRADO. We've either met or beaten guidance, so we'll keep doing that. So guidance this year is 220,000 ounces at less than $11.75 US an ounce. We've already finished our half year. We're tracking really nicely towards full guidance this year. We've increased resources again in the most recent update this year in April, so 12.6 million ounces of gold, 6.4 million ounces of gold in reserves. All of our resources and reserves are unhedged. We are gold bulls. I think the gold price is going to be higher for longer. I think I said it last year, once we saw interest rates start to ease or pause, we'd see the gold price go through $2,000 US an ounce, and it did. I think by the time we get back here next year, you'll see the gold price in US dollars well over $2,500 US an ounce, and I think that'll translate into probably $3,500 an ounce in Australian dollar terms. Or we might see some weakening in the Aussie dollar as well. But I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just an exploration geologist. So we've got over 1,000 square kilometres of exploration ground. The market capitalisation of the company, remarkably, is sitting at 870 million Australian dollars. So clearly there's a bit of discrimination over West African gold versus Australian gold. We could stop production right now and have the market cap could double from here and we'd be the same as some of the Aussie miners. But anyway, I'm not going to complain about it. We're going to get on with it and we'll get down the road and we'll get the KIAKA built. We finished the quarter with nearly 200 million Aussie dollars in cash and bullion. We've recently signed a facility agreement with Sprott and Chorus Bank to fully fund the KIAKA development. That's another 265 million US dollars. So we're fully funded all the way through to first gold at our second build. The question, why West Africa, I do kind of sometimes think I could have gone to Argentina where there's good steaks, red wine and rugby. But as a young geologist, I went to Ghana and Burkina Faso and Mali and spent most of my youth over there. So we've built this company over the last 17 years. And really, if you want to be a global gold producer, you have to be in West Africa because it's the best geology in the world for finding and developing gold deposits. I won't read all those slides there, but one of the most important things down the bottom there is it's very fast to permit, lowest capital intensity for building gold plants, and all of the recent builds in West Africa have been on time, on budget. Most recently, I think Tieto, who's coming up again this afternoon. Where are we in Burkina? We're just central and south, so no surprises. The north and the east of Burkina has been challenging for quite a long time. We had 2 coups in 2022. We've had stability for nearly a year, which is really pleasing. We probably never had better access to the government in terms of communication, so getting straight to the top, and that's really important when we've got our people in country travelling to and from sites. And obviously with ramp up at KIAKA, we're doing our best to secure that site at the moment. But certainly the geopolitical situation in West Africa has changed a lot over the last sort of 6 to 8 years. So SANBRADO, our main operation, so hopefully this is going to work. We couldn't get thunderstruck by AC/DC on the background, so we've got some generic AC/DC sounding music. That's our ROM pad there, over 1 million tonnes of ROM, ore on the ROM, so about 60,000 ounces. The process plant, M5, so I'll be talking about underground mining there later on this talk, so just beneath that southern end of that pit. M1 South's finished now, beautiful open pit, looks exactly like it was designed. Waste dump in the background. That's Club SANBRADO, so anyone who wants to come and work in Burkina Faso, you can go swimming every night, play paddle tennis. It's one of the best places to be. Tailing storage, that's all set. We put a lot of money into that this year. Water storage, we're pumping at the moment for next dry season. It's a very neat operation. The underground mine beneath the open pit, more than 400 or 500 metres of vertical development as well. So we're all set up really with underground mining for the next 2 or 3 years with plenty of development. That was quick, wasn't it? So SANBRADO is a conventional operation, nearly 5 million ounces in resources, just over 2 million ounces, or around 2 million ounces in reserves. Like I mentioned before, we've got high-grade underground mine at M1 South. That's been consistently producing over 100,000 ounces a year at about 8 or 9 grams per tonne. We've drilled that down to 1 kilometre, and we've hit mineralisation there. Next to that, we've got the M5 open pit, which is about 1 to 1.5 grams per tonne. So, you know, the process plant that we built in 2020 has been producing, processing well over 3 million tonnes per annum. The original nameplate on that was 2 million tonnes per annum, so I'll speak a bit more about that in a minute. Conventional process, so if anyone says pressure oxidisation or refractory or fine grinding is conventional, it's not. So conventional is about 100 micron grind, which is what this project is. Gravity recovery, CIL, it's conventional, and we're getting high recoveries. I mentioned the guidance before. Safety, we've got a very low TRIFR, which is better than the average in Western Australia. We work 10 million man-hours on, 10 million hours we worked, got to get my gender pronouns correct, at SANBRADO, and without a LTI, which was a remarkable achievement. And we're actually minting a gold coin for staff and for some of our long-term suffering shareholders who might be on a special list later this year. So this is what SANBRADO looks like for the next decade. It's got a mine life out to 2037, but the next decade it's going to average about 200,000 ounces a year. I mentioned that we think there's a good chance of underground mining beneath the high-grade part of the M5 open pit, which we'll get to later in the presentation. So far this year, we're right on production with 1.6 million tonnes at about 2.4 grams. We produced 113,000 ounces. We sold about the same, and we're tracking really well on costs. Unhedged sales at just over $1,900 US an ounce as well, which has generated 110 million Aussie in free cash flow for the half year, and that's after paying taxes. KIAKA, which hopefully will work here. It's a little quick video of what KIAKA looks like. It's a great place to build a gold project. It's nice and flat. None of the projects in West Africa generally have any issues with geotech or with ground conditions, which is a bit of a contrast to some of the North American projects which have run into issues. We've upgraded the exploration camp now. We're building our sort of team of expats. We've got our access road improved now so you can get to site nice and quickly and safely. Security is a big one, so we're getting our fence line in first. We didn't close the fence at SANBRADO until well into the build, but security with a gatehouse and barracks, so we'll have gendarmes at the front gate. Long lead items, so we've got some very big mills going into KIAKA, which I'll talk about in a second, but they're all on track. We're not seeing any escalation in costs, so we're right on budget with KIAKA, and we'll be pouring gold in mid-2025, so long as we get a clean run at it. So you can just see there, camp in the bottom picture and the process plant area in the top picture. And so KIAKA is located about 45 kilometres due south of SANBRADO, and we picked this project up from B2 Gold in 2021, which is a really good acquisition for us. And it sorted out a problem for B2 as well with us sort of managing to move the project forward and having all our people in country, which was great. So it's a very simple project, again, very simple metallurgy, low strip ratio. It's about a 19-year mine life based on 8.4 million tonnes per annum throughput. We're pretty confident that we'll get this up to 10 million tonnes per annum without any further capital. And that kind of translates into probably something like 300,000 ounces in the first full year of production. We've got 27 megs of installed capacity in SAG mill and bore mill. The flow sheet's almost identical to SANBRADO, just bigger. CapEx is about 430 million of pre-production capital. We're about a third through that on commitments and on build. We're not seeing any escalation at all, and we're on track for a gold pour in mid-2025. So based on the feasibility study, it's 19 years of 220,000 ounces per annum. I think we'll kind of compress that back to probably 16 or 15 or 16 years, and we'll just see that with a higher throughput, we'll probably pull it back to averaging around 250,000 ounces a year. And that'll translate into West African being very close to 500,000 ounces a year in 2026. So the key metrics here, over 4 million ounces of gold recovered at 90%. I just mentioned sort of what I think the production is going to look like. That's out of the feasibility study. Low cost, so around about $1,000 an ounce. So most of the costs are still current. The only change in cost at the moment is probably fuel. The fuel price is slightly higher in Burkina at the moment, but this will be run on grid power, and the grid power is a fixed price in Burkina. That translates to some pretty healthy NPVs at higher gold prices, which currently exceed our market capitalisation. So, I'm no mathematician, but there's something wrong with that equation. So we've got an experienced team. So Matt Scully came and joined us in early 2022 from Perseus after building Yaouré and Sissingué in Ivory Coast. Our approach on building projects is that we will EPCM the process plant, and we'll look after everything else, which is a good way to save on costs. We've awarded the EPCM contract to Lycopodium. We're down the road with major commitments. We've obviously just signed EP and CM contracts. The SAG and bore mills, which you saw photos of, are under construction. Most of the critical gear has been ordered and is in train on time and budget. Like I mentioned, 40% of the project's already committed. We haven't seen any material inflation, so we're having some wins and some losses on certain things, but overall it's coming about the same, so we're pretty confident on our costs for the project. I did mention that we've secured some gap funding with Coris Bank and also Sprott out of the US. So Coris is a local bank, so that facility is about 100 million US equivalent, and Sprott's contributing 150 million US. So combined, it's about 250 million US, and then with some being allowed to capitalise interest during the build period, it'll come up to about 265 million. So importantly, it's about 5% over LIBOR, so about 10% money, which is a lot cheaper than what we had last time when we built SANBRADO with funding from Taurus. So the schedule here is everything's on track, and that sees us ramping up with first gold in the middle of 2025. So our history of resource growth and reserve growth, which is really important. You can see sort of 2015 we made our discovery at SANBRADO. That converted into reserves in sort of 2018. So there's a bit of a process here. Obviously 2019 and 2020 we were funding, building, and then pouring first gold in 2020. And then after we poured first gold, we acquired the Toega project, which sees the first bump from B2 Gold, and then also the second project, KIAKA. And I did those two deals with Dennis Stansbury, who's in the audience over here. It's good to see him down in Australia. Welcome, Dennis, to our lovely country. And then what it looks like in the 10-year production target for us, it's pretty meaningful. In the next 2 years, we're about 200,000 ounces a year, and then that bumps up to over 400,000 ounces a year for the rest of the decade. So that puts us right into mid-tier sort of category. With both projects have got mine lives that are longer than 10 years. They've all got excellent upside. There's potential infill at depth and add depth extensions. There's also excellent near-surface targets. But we kind of focused on delivering this project and getting to additional cash flow from KIAKA at the moment. So we're not focused on exploration. Both of those mills are going to be full for a very long time, but we'll get back into doing some good exploration once we're a bit further down the road with the construction. And one of the things that we can add during this build period, I think, is going to be the next exciting part, which will maintain more than 200,000 ounce production for SANBRADO, which is providing significant amount of cash flow for the build at KIAKA, is potential underground at M5. So these aren't, they're not as good as obviously M1 South, which is a really, really high grade, high value underground mine. But we're looking at this as a potential feed with from beneath the M5 pit. So we'll complete that pit early next year. We've already started drilling this, and we expect to have some results out soon. And then, providing those results kind of are in line with what we've had historically, we'll have a scoping study completed on the M5 South underground by the end of this year. And roughly I'd expect that to contribute another 400,000 or 500,000 tonnes a year of underground material at around about 3 or 3.5 grams. So it's not the 8-9 grams that we get from SANBRADO, but certainly in comparison to some of the projects here in Australia, it'll certainly make some good money for us. Exploration, I'll kind of skip through exploration, but you can see we've got a very good land holding, over 1,000 square kilometres of ground, 150 strike kilometres. ESG, which I think is really important. There's a lot of talk around these conferences about ESG and what we're doing about keeping our workforce diverse and promoting people through with diverse backgrounds. But I think we try and walk it and live it every day. So, if you can see down there the seedlings that we've grown in our nursery on site, we've already produced over 20,000 seedlings that we're gifting to the communities around our SANBRADO project. And those we've consulted with the communities, and we're producing seedlings which they actually need for their either medicinal or they've got some sort of cultural significance. We've built our livelihood restoration project, so where we've displaced people off our projects in Africa, we're looking to provide them with alternative lifestyles or ability to earn income. So we've got a lot of programs involved with that, and we're doing things to a very, very high standard. Excuse me. So we're making a positive impact where we are. We really want to leave this land that we're mining at both of our projects in a better state than what we found it, and we'll certainly do that with the programs that we've got. We've got a number of different programs that we're working on, including a scholarship program with our first 2 graduates for university inducted last year. We'll have another 2 this year, and we're running that right through the mine lives of both SANBRADO and KIAKA. We do a lot of health programs. Obviously during COVID we worked a lot very closely with our communities. We do a lot of work with prevention for malaria and other STDs and HIV. And one of the most important things we can do from an ESG point of view is provide a job, because I think when people get a job, they've got purpose in their lives. So more than half of our employees come from the local area surrounding our projects, which is really important. And then the last point there is really, really important, which is pay your taxes and pay your royalties. So we've already contributed over $250 million US to the state of Burkina Faso in various forms since we started operations in 2020, which really does make a significant impact, because Burkina is a developing country and it's got a few challenges at the moment. Our workforce, which I mentioned before, so predominantly from Burkina, 7% expatriates, and they're from all over the world. You can see that slide on that slide to the right. All of our sort of 80% of our senior roles are now Burkinabe, and that's increasing each year with generally now as expats leave site or finish up with us, once they've done their 2 or 3 years, which is pretty common for expats, we're replacing those people with nationals, which is really good. So we're handing those roles over. More than a third of our roles, senior roles, are held by females, and like I mentioned before, half of our workers come from local region. We're also doing a lot of other work, so obviously training programs, accreditation of Australian programs on site. So when people working for us are completing our training programs, they can take those certificates, and obviously they're recognised by other companies and also in other countries. So why invest in West African? Well, obviously we've got a good board and team, and we're building a reputation for delivering. So obviously we talk a lot about under promise and over deliver in our office. We always want to make sure that we deliver on what our commitments are. We've got a very large exposure to unhedged gold, so over 6 million ounces in reserves, over 12 million ounces in resources. We're always working on our social licence to operate as far as ESG goes, and we take that very, very seriously. And all the work we're completing on our sites to world best practice standards. So we can take investors or people through our sites, and they, they're as good or better than what you find in some of the developed countries. As far as growth goes, obviously we've got strong cash flow during the build. We've secured the gap funding for KIAKA. We will get back to sort of doing more exploration once we're a bit further down the road with the build at KIAKA, and we look forward to coming back here next year and showing some photos of concrete and steel going up, and then in 2025 we look forward to being a mid-tier producer, producing well over 400,000 ounces of gold per annum. Thank you.
Well done, Rich. You've got 30 seconds to stay there in case anyone's got a question. Outstanding and well done, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.